Okay, and it is a good early morning. It's 7 a.m. here on a Monday morning. Waking up Long Island, figuratively, literally, it's an early hour. But we are here back on a Monday morning, Monday, October 25th. 8 days to go here on We Will Not Comply, live from the America First Media Campus. We've got a really special guest here today. A lot of you guys have seen this man's face over and over and over, comes to a lot of our events, fired up the room yesterday at the Lee Zeldin fundraiser at the America First Warehouse, was out at a couple of other events earlier in the week, fired up that room too. Really awesome man. I've gotten to know him over the last month or so, couple months, running for Suffolk County District Attorney. This is somebody who we need to win this election. So if you're in Suffolk County, you need to vote for this man. We are joined by special guest. He is the district attorney candidate for Suffolk County. Tough on crime, tough on MS-13, fair, experienced prosecutor, and overall really great dude. I'm proud to welcome to our studio Ray Tierney. Ray, how are you today? And say hi to the people out on Long Island.
Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Ray. Thanks for joining us this morning. I know it's early. I know we're having a busy week. 8 days to go to the election. How are we feeling about everything? We're out knocking doors. We're dropping stuff for you. How do you feel about your prospects coming up?
I'm feeling great. You know, I got my usual 4 hours of sleep. I'm refreshed. I'm recharged, and I feel great. The response in the community has been fantastic, and I'm energized by them. They're giving me my energy, and we're going to sprint through the finish line, and we're going to do this.
I'm excited, and there's been so much. Yesterday we had the debate on News 12. That went live around 11:30 in the afternoon and morning there. Just to let everyone know, kind of give your feelings on how that went. How was it? Did it feel like it was a fair debate in your eyes? I know News 12, sometimes they've played games with me. I hope they're not playing games with the next DA of Suffolk County, but we'll see. How did that go yesterday, your debate?
I felt it was very fair. I appreciated, I appreciate the opportunity. Anytime anyone gives me a forum, I appreciate it. So in the beginning of this race, I don't think I was really getting that forum. So I appreciate the forum. I thought the debate itself was very fair. And I think that the voters are presented with a clear choice, because what you have on one side is talking points that don't go anywhere and never discuss results. And, when you're dealing with a prosecutor such as myself, I talk about results. I talk about what happens in court. I don't talk about what happens at a splashy press conference that goes nowhere.
That's awesome. I mean, listen, let me ask you this, because a lot of people, they see us getting involved in something and they immediately flip to, okay, well, it's got to be politically motivated. I know that one thing that you always mention when you're talking to a room full of people, I know you always mention when you're talking to really anybody that I've heard, is that you're not a politician. This isn't somebody you're not just somebody who's jumping in, seeing an open DA seat, seeing an incompetent person like Tim Sini figuring this is a wounded animal that you can go take down, right? You're not a politician. You're not doing this for selfish reasons. Give everyone a little bit of your background, right? Why are you running for DA? Why do you feel it's so important to do it in 2021? And how do you feel just being somebody out of the political circle, throwing your name out there, getting involved? Now, I'm sure you've dealt with a bunch of people calling you a bunch of things that aren't true. I deal with it every day. What made you do that? And how's that process been for you, kind of getting into the political circle of everything?
Well, I think that process has been great. But just as far as my background goes, I grew up here in Comac with my four sisters. Went to St. Anthony's High School, graduated, went to Brown University, then St. John's. And when you're a kid and people you test well, they say, oh, you should be a lawyer. You're smart. And so I said, all right, I'll be a lawyer. And my concept of being a lawyer was you go into court and you protect people and you put the bad guy away. And as I got older, that thought never really left my head. So that's really all I wanted to do. And that's what I did. Coming out of school, I immediately got a job with the Suffolk County DA's office. Back then, not that they make a tremendous amount of money now, but back then they really weren't making a lot of money. So in 1999, I left because I was married. I had 2 kids at the time, and I left because I wasn't making any money. And so I was working in a firm, and 9/11 happened. And I was in Queens when 9/11 happened, so I sort of saw the smoke. As I was driving home to Suffolk, all the line of emergency vehicles were just flooding into the city. And I said to myself, I said, my job is really inconsequential. Like my job doesn't matter. So I said, I'm going to go back. I'm going to try to go back to the DA's office. I'm going to try to get back into public service, and I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it. I can make a living in the private sector, but I'm going to go back to the public sector, and I'm going to do it my way. So that's what I did. And I got a job. I was in the district attorney's office. I was working for the former district attorney. I ran afoul of some of the things that they were doing there. I was going to get fired for insubordination. I managed to avoid that, but basically my career was over in the district attorney's office. So I went to the U.S. attorney's office, where I prosecuted a number of really consequential cases, and from there, I was an executive assistant district attorney in Brooklyn, and I ran a number of bureaus. But during the course of my 26 plus year career, I had done a lot of things. I had done a lot of investigations. I had done a lot of trials. So I had built a reputation for myself. So when the ADAs were calling me from the district and said this is a nightmare. This guy does not know what he's doing. He's running the office into the ground. It's all about talking points. It's not about protecting people. You have to run. And I said, well, that's great. I don't belong to a political party. And the reason why I don't belong, I never belonged to a political party, was I wanted to be the type of assistant that you could give any case to. And so I did political corruption cases against Republicans, conservatives, and Democrats. And I never begged out of a case. I never asked, no, I can't do that case, no matter what it was. So, I had this background, but I didn't have any sort of, political backing of any sort. I had never met Jesse Garcia, who's the Republican chairman. I had never met Mike Torres, who's the conservative chairman. I did meet the Democratic chairman, Rich Schaefer, but that's because he testified for me in the Eddie the trial of the former conservative party leader. So I just didn't have the backing. And then one day I got a call, and they said that they wanted to talk to me, and I was shocked. And, I thought about it. I talked to my wife, and I said, I can make a fundamental change in Suffolk County. I could fundamentally change the way Suffolk County is run. And because I come from outside the system, I owe no one anything. I come here because they wanted somebody with a good resume to run. So I'm running, but I'm going to do it like I did my entire career. I'm going to do it on my own terms.
That's amazing. And look, this is something that's very important to understand, right? When you look at the system, and a lot of people talk about the swamp, you look at Cini, you look at guys like Rob Calarco out in Dom Thorne's district. I mean, you see it everywhere. You can look into the schools, you can look all the way up to the federal government and see it up at our own attorney general's level. However you may feel about all these things, a lot of these guys who jump into these political positions, but have to do with either law enforcement or something that, what you would be doing, prosecuting, things like that. And they take the system and they gear it towards their own personal agenda. Well, Ray just told you, look, he's not beholden to a party. So there's no way that somebody's going to get in his ear and say, hey, you got to do this because, Republicans or blah, 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 Democrats. You think about someone like John Durham, who was a U.S. attorney who took down the mob in Boston. He's now being looked at. They were using him now to try and look into the Clinton corruption case, a guy that's coming in unbiased, just wants to do this letter of the law fair. And that's something that, look, I think we're missing here in Suffolk County with our district attorney now, Tim Cini. I don't think, not only do I think he's not competent, but I do think that he is beholden to a party to an extent. He is beholden to other individuals. He doesn't have that independence that you may have. Why don't we talk a little bit more about that? I don't like really talking about what you're not, but I think everybody should know the distinction between the person you're running against and the person and prosecutor and DA that you want to be.
Well, I think, I have a 26-year body of work, and that's what I stand on. I'm very comfortable standing alone on that, because I think that's unparalleled. In fact, I know it's unparalleled. I don't think there's, another prosecutor in Suffolk County that can say he's done or she's done close to the things that I've been able to do, and I've been fortunate to do it. Don't get me wrong, but with that track record and with that record of being outside the political system comes independence. So when you're brought in as this person who's been a 26-year independent prosecutor, and so I can say, look, you brought me in. We were under no illusions when I got here. I'm independent, so and I'm not joining a political party because I serve the people first and foremost. My opponent, I mean, he doesn't exist without the help of his political benefactors. I mean, there's no question. You don't become a police commissioner of the 11th largest police department in the country at 34 years of age with barely any prosecution experience and absolutely zero police experience without a benefactor. I mean, and this thought that we need a savior to lead us out of this era of corruption in the Suffolk County Police Department, and we're going to do a nationwide search, and that nationwide search with all of the unbelievable law enforcement and police figures that I've met in my career, to say that the most qualified person to be the police commissioner of the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office is a 34-year-old person with no police experience who lives in the same neighborhood as the county executive. I mean, it's beyond ludicrous. But this is what our political process has become. We all have to pretend that that's not beyond ludicrous. Right. It's ludicrous.
It's crazy.
And so then you springboard from there. And if you see he talks about he's the state District Attorneys Association. He's the next president of the State District Attorneys Association, and he's going to use that organization to change bail reform. It's a talking point, but it's ridiculous because he's replacing a guy from Washington County, a district attorney from Washington County. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm sure he's a great prosecutor. Washington County District Attorney's Office has 4 assistant district attorneys in the office. So he's pretending like he's just joined the Supreme Court. He hasn't, and they're not going to be able to change law. That's the legislator's job. What you can do is you can be strong and loud in your opposition to that law, which he didn't do. But he talks about his affiliations and the institutions that support him. He's desperate to have those institutions support him because he needs to be propped up, because when he stands alone and you look at his accomplishments, I'm still trying to get, he claims to have been a gang prosecutor. I'm still trying to get one case he prosecuted. He won't talk about it. I asked him if he's the man who took down MS-13. That's what he says. I would never ever say that I was the man who took down MS-13 because it's irresponsible. But he says he's the man who took down MS-13. Great. Who did you convict? 96 arrests. Great. Who did you convict? We have 96 arrests. Great. Who did you convict? We solved murders. At the time of the Raymond, he said he solved 7 murders. Now he sees the poll numbers. Now he says he solved 10 murders. Oh, that's great. You solved 10 murders? Okay, tell us who. So now, by his own definition of his indictment, in order to be a member, the price of admission to the MS-13, according to the Suffolk County District Attorney's indictment, is you must commit 2 murders. So you have double murderers, and now he claims that he thwarted these double murderers in the nick of time from committing a 3rd murder. Okay, great. So then you arrested them. What's their names? What is the sentence? What is the sentence that they receive? Because if you're a double murderer who's in the process of committing a 3rd murder, you're talking 10, 20, 30-year terms of incarceration if you're doing your job right, and if this actually exists. But nothing. We never hear the results because there are no results. And I think if we saw, and I know because I've talked to defense attorneys, if we saw the plea bargains that were engaged in, it would shock the conscience of the Suffolk County voter. I can tell you that his big splashy MS-13 indictment, he unseals the case for the purposes of the MS-13 indictment, so he could talk about all these bloodthirsty murderers, never give their names, just talk to them in the abstract. Well, about 2 weeks ago, he had 2 of these bloodthirsty murderers who were on trial. And they pled. The case was pled out, and the plea was sealed, and the defense attorneys were given a gag order so they couldn't discuss the plea. Now, if you seal a case, you seal it from start to finish. It doesn't make any sense to unseal a case, everyone knows about it, and then seal the result. The only reason why you would seal the result is because you're embarrassed by what that result will tell you as a prosecutor. Okay, I'm not going to do that. You're going to see my results. You've seen my results. I'll list my results. And when I have a press conference, I'm going to talk about what we sentenced the defendant to. I'm not going to speculate as to what he's guilty to at the time of the indictment, which is unethical, quite frankly. I'm going to talk about the results in court.
That's amazing. Look, transparency in all forms of government. And that's important, right? Do you want to deal with somebody who's not transparent? Do you want to deal with somebody who's not being forthright, who, less like what Ray just said, hiding things from you, sealing indictments, sealing information so that you don't know what's going on? So it's just, remember, look, we dealt with this, right? With Anthony Fauci, we dealt with this. Just trust me. Don't worry. It's fine. Look, shiny over here. Don't worry about what we sentenced the MS-13 guy to or what we didn't sentence him to. Don't worry about what us as government, as the people who are supposed to be keeping your community safe, don't worry about what we're afraid to show you. Just trust us that things are going to get better. Well, just trust us has led to what we've become now. We have bail reform now, which isn't really bail reform. It was bail repeal. There is no bail. You could look at, on some of these cases, some of these things that you could take, people don't have to go to pay bail for, distributing drugs to a minor in a school zone. I mean, there were soliciting prostitution in a school zone, manslaughter too. I mean, that means somebody died. Am I wrong? Does that mean somebody died, okay, at your hands, whether you meant to or not? And you don't have to pay bail. You just, you go in, you get booked, you get a court date, and you're out on the street again. Who knows how much more crime? Broken windows policing. They talked about that in New York City. I'm sure it's a term, a lot of people throw that around. Rudy Giuliani said the guy who broke the window of the store was the same guy who wound up, robbing a bank and shooting somebody later. But if you take these smaller, you want to call them nonviolent, but they're still crimes that come with some expense, and you get those people off the street so they can't offend again and test the system and commit a larger, more violent crime, it leads to safer communities. It led to a safe, thriving, robust New York City. It will lead again to a safe, thriving, and robust Suffolk County. But if we keep going down more of the same, the definition of insanity is to repeat the same behaviors and expect different results. So if we repeat the same behaviors, we elect the same district attorney, you can expect the same results, what he was just telling you, in Suffolk County. Let me ask you a question. I'm going to pivot. First thing I'm going to say is over the last week, I've seen Ray talking in a few events, and I always said, what a polished speaker, right? Very polished, very powerful, very direct, knows what he wants to say, says it. Hey, we hear it. Prosecutor. Wonderful. Great. You can do it in court. You can convince a jury. You can sway a judge. You can get that's amazing. But what I've seen over the last week, starting from last Tuesday night at the event that was held in Smithtown to last night at the America First warehouse right around the corner at the Lee Zeldin fundraiser, is that you got up there, you grabbed the microphone and just started going. And it was coming from the heart. It was passion. It was there was a connection that you had made with some of the people in that room last night, especially, who were just people that, they show up to rallies. They want to fight for the country. They believe in you. They believe in your message, and you're connecting with them. You're connecting with the voter that in an off year, in an odd numbered year election, local elections only, there's no federal implications here with maybe, there are federal implications with the ballot propositions on the back. And we'll get to that, on later episodes and maybe a little bit today, but you're connecting with people who normally wouldn't vote in an off-year election. You're connecting with people who would vote maybe once every 4 years, maybe once every 2 years to vote for Congress. Now, the way you spoke yesterday, I'm telling you, I heard from so many people, they went, that Ray Tierney, he's the DA guy, right? I said, yeah, that's the DA. You got to vote for him if you're in Suffolk County. Please, and then flip the ballot over, go no down the back. They went, yeah, but he came in, he fired up everyone yesterday. And that's something that I knew you as a prosecutor, it was there, but I've seen it come alive over the last month. And I have to tell you, that has been a thrill for me to watch, because I'll get up there, start screaming and going yelling, and then people will go crazy, and I'll hear about it all the time. But when you see the future DA, and I believe this, and I'm not going to count the chickens. I'm a Jets fan. I know you're a Giants fan. I'm a Jets fan. We blow leads for a living. Okay, we are so bad. It's incredible. And I don't count the chickens. I don't even when the clock says 0, I'm waiting for a flag or something to come on. The Jets didn't really win the game. But I'm going to tell you this. It is so refreshing to watch somebody just step into the role, the candidate role, and not play, cutesy or nice, and just get out there and connect with people. And that's what you've done. There's been a lot of volunteers. I know you're out there, your face is everywhere. You're everywhere. You're here early in the morning. What are you doing? It's 6 a.m, 7 a.m. You're here in the studio. It's like with the crazy guy who used to wear the pirate hat, right? Just drinking coffee, and I'm on cup 1 of probably 6 today. Who knows, right? But this is what I'm saying. You're connecting with the people. How has that been? And have you noticed that you're starting to make more connections with people you never thought you were going to make, or that you've made inroads into these communities, in a year where normally it's hard to reach voters?
Well, I think the campaign is a process, and especially for a guy like me. So for a guy like me, they're like, the decision is made by the Republicans. We're going to give Ray Tierney the opportunity to run for district attorney. So unless you were hanging out in the federal courthouse, you don't know who the heck Ray Tierney is. So when they said we're going to give Ray Tierney the opportunity to run for district attorney, most of the Republicans were like, who? So I have to go out and I have to introduce myself to the Republicans, and then later when I got the line from the conservatives, I have to introduce myself to the conservatives, because I don't know these people. So I introduce myself to them. Then once we establish those constituencies, then we go out into the public, and then I introduce myself to the public, and it's a process. And in the beginning, you have to say why you're running, and I'm running because of my record. So it's hard to be excited when you talk about, a 26-year prosecutor.
Right.
So we go through that process. But, and now we get to this process. And I can tell you, before I was a prosecutor, I was a football player. And I love football. I love playing football, because you got into a room with like-minded individuals, and you set a goal, and you tried to achieve that goal, and you literally tried to do everything you could, gave up pieces of your body to try to achieve an objective. And when I went to college, my freshman year, I blew out my knee. And my sophomore year, I came back and I tried to play football, and my knee was unstable. I couldn't. They wouldn't clear me medically to play football, so I was told my football career was over. So I didn't play football my sophomore year, and I missed it. I missed it terribly. I missed being, in a project with people, and working for that goal. So then I decided to come back my junior year, and I had to sign, I had to sign a waiver. But I was a different player, but it didn't matter to me, because I was in that room, and I had that mindset, and we were working towards a goal, and we were working collaboratively to achieve something. And I love that. So when I think about that, now we see what's happening to this country. We see how we're being gaslit by our leaders. So what I'm trying to do when it comes to criminal justice, I'm trying to change things. And there's a lot of people out there who see the same things and want to buy into that. So when I get in front of a crowd and we're all trying to achieve a single goal, it kind of takes me back to that locker room.
Nice.
Where you're like, hey guys, we're going to go out there and we're going to work together, and we're not going to give up until we achieve success. And we're going to do it together, and we're going to support each other, and we're going to fight until the whistle, and we're going to achieve it. And so that's how I kind of see this stage of the election. This stage of the election is, listen, the issues have been revealed. The lines have been drawn. Where are you? Let's do this. And it's inspiring to me, because I feel the energy. Just like when you go into the locker room, you feel that energy.
It is tangible. You can feel that.
and
Yeah.
you feed off it. So when I walked into that room yesterday, I felt that energy, and I said, let me steal that energy from everybody. Let me grab it, and then let me throw it back at everybody. And that's what, that's what you do. That's what you do as a leader. And one of the things that I want to do when I become the district attorney is I want to inspire the young assistants. I want to say, listen, this is because I think we tend to look on the dark side of things,
Right.
and there are a lot of issues with bail reform and all these other things that make being an ADA a tough job. But being an ADA as a lawyer is the greatest job you could ever have. And so I want to inspire, the young assistants in our office, and I want to say, listen, we have an opportunity to do justice today. We have an opportunity to make our community safer. We have an opportunity to make our mark. So let's go out and let's do it. Let's grab it. Let's work together. Let's learn from each other. Let's support each other, and let's do the right thing. Let's do justice. Let's protect our community. What could be better than that? I mean, it's unbelievable. And the thought that in a few short days I will be leading that office, it humbles me, it energizes me, I'll run through the door right now because
you're getting me ready to go.
I'm ready to go. I'm ready. I'm ready to go, and I'm going to transfer that enthusiasm, that excitement, and that experience to my assistants. And we are going to do the people's work.
That's amazing. Listen, and the chat's eating it up. I mean, everybody here is going, oh my God, he's got my vote. I mean, hopefully nobody said that it lives in Nassau. That's voter fraud. But I mean, look.
Well, they could tell their relatives in Suffolk.
Right. If you got relatives in Suffolk, if you live in Nassau and you can't vote for Ray Tierney, get your relatives who live in Suffolk out to vote for Ray. They got early voting has started. Get out and vote for Ray. Vote no on the back of the ballot as well. Look, I'm going to jump into a story because obviously there's a big issue going on the southern border, and you have a background with MS-13, and you've dealt with a lot with with MS-13, and as you said, you're not going to take credit for taking them down because that's irresponsible. But what kind of impact? And I'm gonna split the screen here in a second, and we're going to be on. Look at how cool this is. We're on the right side, but it's going to be on the left side. We have, or actually, I'm going to go this way. Make a nice big old, and we'll put a small image. We have a caravan that is heading from the southern border. 60,000 migrants from Tapachula in southeastern Mexico on Thursday. They're leaving and they're heading up towards the southern border. Now, I want to be careful about this because former President Trump, he would say things about these caravans and it would get taken out of context. So the first thing I want to mention is, look, I don't have a problem with somebody who wants to come into the United States if they're going to do it legally, right? But if you're going to just storm the southern border with 60,000 migrants, now, not all of these people are bad people. Some of them are fleeing a really bad situation. But don't you think it's possible, you having experience with MS-13 and maybe knowing the origin of some of these gang members that come to the country, don't you think it's possible that there could be a pretty large number of them that are coming through the border? And maybe it's not just MS-13. Maybe it's maybe there's radical Islamic terror as well, and other people that are coming in that want to do the country harm. But is that a problem? Do you think that that's something that's a national issue? This is something that President Biden is not taking action on. This is something that Vice President Harris is not taking action on. The southern border, they're pretending like this crisis doesn't exist. People look at it and go, well, that's only happening down in border towns in Texas. No, that's going to impact towns like Brentwood here in Long Island. Am I right or wrong about that, Ray?
Well, it's interesting to me because, of course, actions have consequences, but inaction has consequences as well. And, when you talk about what's happening at the border, it's so simple to me. Because what you have is, how do those migrants get there? So let's talk about America has ceded their authority on our border. We've basically given up our border. But what about all the countries along the way? They haven't. Okay, so you still, these migrants still have to get through all these other countries, and so what? And the reason why they want to leave places like Central America is because they're impoverished.
Right.
So they need to somehow get money to pay a coyote to take them through the other countries and then take them across the border. So that costs money, and you have to have knowledge and know-how. Well, the MS-13 is organized in Central Islip and in Brentwood and in Suffolk County. They communicate with the leadership in El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and they're telling their members, okay, this is how you come up. and we'll give you money and we'll give you support. And that gives them the ability. That gives them the ability to, that gives them a greater ability to take advantage of America's border policies. So there's going to be a proportion and a significant proportion of gang members in any movement towards the border. And then once they get to the border, they're instructed, look, report yourself. Tell them that you have you have relatives in Central Islip and Brentwood or somewhere in Suffolk County, and then our government flies them to, and we're coming at, they're coming in at night apparently. Who's vetting them? There's an office called the Office of Refugee Resettlement, and they're supposed to interview these individuals. Are they interviewing these individuals? I can tell you, I can interview individuals, and I could do a pretty good job of telling you who's MS and who's not, because I've interviewed, I've interviewed not probably over 1,000 MS-13 members. I think Tim Sinney has seen an MS-13 member on TV once, but I've interviewed them. So I know I could talk to them, and so is somebody doing that? Is somebody vetting these individuals? Are we at least getting that? But once they get there, they plug into their their existing leadership in MS-13, and you have a problem. I could tell you how, fentanyl. Why?
That's a big one.
Why does Suffolk County lead the metropolitan area in opioid overdose deaths? Because when I started my career as a prosecutor and addicts were using fentanyl, they were pharmaceutical grade fentanyl, and they were getting it and fentanyl is 100 times more powerful than morphine. So what the pharmaceutical companies will do is they try to delay its effect by putting it in gel.
Right.
And addicts would withdraw it. They would cook the gel up. They would try to withdraw the fentanyl from it and try to get it all in one shot to get high, really high. That was a process. And also the person who was doing that knew what they were dealing with is fentanyl. Now what you have is the fentanyl in powder form from Mexico and China coming through the border, and it's coming directly to the drug dealers. A kilo is $30,000 a kilo approximately. So what you do is they call it you step on the kilo, which means you make 1 kilo into 3 kilos, then you sprinkle fentanyl on it, and addicts believe that it's the high that they're receiving is from strong cocaine. What they don't realize is it's fentanyl and it's killing people. So that's another ramification of the border, our opioid crisis, and then human trafficking. And this is the thing that breaks my heart. Yeah, because this is how young women from Central America get into human trafficking. So they're there. These families are desperate to have their daughters come to the United States. A coyote comes up to them and says, "Look, if you pay us $10,000, $7,000, whatever it is, we can get you. We have a job for you. We'll usher you through the border, and we'll get you a job as a nanny with a really wealthy, nice family on the East Coast of the United States." Sounds great, right? So they scrape together all the money they have. They do it, and then they go into Honduras, and the young lady gets kidnapped. And it's just another Confederate who claims to have kidnapped them. They call back the parents and they say, "We have your daughter. She's kidnapped. We're not letting her go until you give us more money." So then the parents scrape together more money, and they keep on doing this until they're reasonably assured that they've squeezed every last penny out of the families. And then at the last stop, they tell the girl, "Okay, you're kidnapped again, unfortunately. And guess what? Your parents have no more money. But you owe us $10,000. And if you don't give us that $10,000, we're going to go back to your town and we're going to murder your parents. We're going to murder your brother. We're going to murder your sister. We're going to murder your grandparents. But there's a way that you can get out of this. And the way you get out of this, if you agree to work in this line of work." And that's heartbreaking to me.
That's horrible.
And the fact that we're not vetting people at the border. We're not protecting these young girls. It's heartbreaking to me, and it's not acceptable.
Well, something that a lot of our ideological opponents on the left, my ideological opponents on the left, say is, silence is consent. And it sounds an awful lot like if we continue to ignore or pretend like these things aren't happening. You just heard it from somebody who's not affiliated with a party, right? Who's a prosecutor, law and order, right? that there are schemes, and we knew this, everyone talks about, there are schemes like this happening with regards to having a wide open southern border and human trafficking and drug trafficking and gang members coming into the country. You see here in the post-millennial article that they actually organized this caravan that's leaving from Mexico to come to the United States with a QR code on a website that people can actually register for, as if you're buying a ticket to go to a concert, and 60,000 people. So this is not just a bunch of people who said, we've had enough and we're coming to the United States. This was organized. And the only reason why these guys are organizing it is because they know they're going to be able to go somewhere. Look, I organized rallies. We put together routes from Seaford to Montauk. We all know, hey, this is what we're going to do. People go onto the events, they click. I'm not saying that what our rallies do is anywhere near as dangerous or bad as what happens when you organize and you give everybody a collective goal, kind of like how you're saying you're going to get into government and you're going to inspire your assistants and organize everything and work as a team. Unfortunately, they're using that same work ethic, that same method to invade the United States and bring in all of these problems. Again, not every person in this caravan, and it's very possible that the overwhelming majority of people in this caravan are just people looking for a better life. And I'm sympathetic to that, but there's a way to come here. And the way that they're doing it now is not the way to do it. It's not safe for us. It's not safe for these people who are fleeing violence and crime down the future to wind up settling in a community where the same people that they're trying to run from also came here in that caravan and are wreaking havoc in their community where they thought they were going to get a better life. And it's organized. It's not a spur of the moment thing. I mean, a QR code. I haven't heard anything about this. I read this article this morning, a QR code on our phone, on their phones to a web link to participate. Does that sound like something, that a cartel or something would put together, or if it's not something that they put together, something that they could surely take advantage of, right? Am I reading that correctly?
No, absolutely. And we know about power vacuums, right? So just because the United States fails to exercise its power at the border doesn't mean that there's no power at the border. So who controls the border? The drug cartels. So we're making the drug cartels immeasurably stronger by ceding the most important territory, in that area of the world, the border between Mexico and the United States, run by the drug cartels. So it's unfathomable to me that we would do something like that. And I just wanted to also talk about, the effects of this, in the community, the community that it affects the most, which is, the Brentwood community. And, I get frustrated, sometimes when people talk about Brentwood. Brentwood is about the MS-13. If you go into Brentwood, and I visit Brentwood all the time. I've prosecuted over 50 MS-13 murders. That's over 50 people that the MS-13 murdered. I prosecuted those cases. So obviously I got to know the community very well. And that community is, it's always been a great community. It's always been a working class community, whether it was, Black, Italian, Irish, now it's there's a lot of Hispanics. It's always working class people. It's always hardworking people who are just trying to provide for their families and do the best they can for their children. So now you have all of these great families in Brentwood, they all they want to do is work hard and give their kids a better opportunity than they had, the American dream.
Right.
And so now what's happening is you have the Brentwood School District, and you're about to inundate the Brentwood School District with thousands of children. So how is a child in Brentwood going to get a good education when you're inundating the school system with an unknown amount of children? So you take, like, say you take a middle school, and you say, okay, our 8th grade class, we anticipate that there will be 200 students. And then all of a sudden, first day of school comes around and there's 350 students, 150 of which do not speak English as a first language. What are the resources are going to be like? How can you teach all those kids? It's not fair to the new kids coming into the school, and it's certainly not fair to the parents who are already there and are trying to ensure that their children have a fair opportunity. So, it's one thing to do this, and then it's another thing to absolutely inundate a community without really any notice or any opportunity to account for it. So it's unfair. It's unfair from that perspective. But then when you have a certain number of these individuals who have already come here and have already been talking actively with MS-13, both in Suffolk County and Central America, it's very difficult. And my heart goes out to the people in Brentwood, because like I said, I've been going out to Brentwood. Brentwood is an unbelievable community. I mean, the community has really rebounded from, the devastation wrought by the MS-13 in about 2010. And, we have to fight to make sure that they don't have to go through that again.
That's all. I mean, let me ask you this. MS-13. One more thing on MS-13. I know that you had briefed President Trump at some point on MS-13. I think it was 2018. You were invited to the State of the Union speech. I know that you said you had done that in Washington. What was that conversation like? And obviously, if there's things that you can't say, because of whatever sources and methods, I get it. But what was that conversation like? How was it like working with him? Obviously, we saw results come from maybe not that conversation entirely, but that played a role. I know that President Trump came to Long Island, spoke to some folks out in Brentwood, law enforcement, about MS-13. He's come out, he's held events in the I think it was the Gabreski Airport. I know that he's come out to Long Island on several occasions in his first term when, he was talking about the border, talking about MS-13. His biggest thing was the wall. Obviously, that was the first, we're going to build a wall. Okay. And he was doing all of this about reforming and strengthening our border and stopping crime and stopping the drugs flowing into the country and stopping the human trafficking and some of the other really disgusting crimes that happened within these caravans and they spread to the communities. But what was that like working with him? What came of that you can point to? And basically, when you become the new district attorney of Suffolk County, those plans that you worked on with President Trump, are you going to be able to, you think, implement those again into Suffolk County to bring it back to where Brentwood was? They rebounded from MS-13. So if we could touch on that, those interactions that you had with President Trump with regards to MS-13, I think the people that are watching the chat, obviously a lot of them are big time supporters of them. They would love to get a little insight on how some of those conversations went.
Well, I think the biggest thing that the president had done was he shown a light on it, and he's got the bully pulpit with the presidency. So certainly everything that they do, everything that a president does, everything that they call attention to it's just magnified 1,000 times. So he's shown the light on it. He had an interest in it. He had a passion for it. And when we went down to the State of the Union, we were fortunate enough to talk to him about the situation in with the MS-13. And I think the one thing that surprises everyone, the president included, with regard to MS-13 is, especially the president, because he's an entrepreneur. But there is really no, like every other street gang, you have a racket, whether it's drugs or extortion or girls or women, trafficking women, whatever it is, you're using, or drugs, you're using that, and you set up this apparatus to make money off of the particular criminal activity, and then to protect that racket, you'll commit murder. It's opposite with the MS-13. The MS-13 is about murder. They traffic in murder. They're about murder. Their objective is to kill and attack members of rival gang members, first and foremost. Now they'll deal drugs, they'll extort shopkeepers and do that kind of stuff, but they're raising that money so they could buy weapons so they could kill people. So it's it's opposite of that. So I think that was one thing that surprised everyone. We debriefed the president. We debriefed the attorney general on 2 occasions about the MS-13.
That was Jeff Sessions back then, right?
Yep. And that was really important. And the other thing that was really important was because the prior administration, El Salvador wasn't really as engaged with us as perhaps they could have been. And once the president got involved in that, we got a lot more cooperation from El Salvador. And so that was great. And now you take those lessons as a local prosecutor, and you really, it's difficult on a local level to sort of exert yourself outside of Suffolk County like
Right.
you can as a federal prosecutor. But one thing I did know, like during my campaign, I've gone down to the Salvadoran consulate in Brentwood, and they're great people down there, and they're really committed. They want they want to be good citizens and good partners with law enforcement in Suffolk County to work through this problem. Because look, they have the same problem that we have.
Right.
We have this thriving Brentwood community with a very small proportion of people who have this outrageous acts of violence.
Right.
So they want, they want to address this problem. So we'll work it together with them. And the Salvadoran consulate has, the reach back into El Salvador. And I really get the sense that they really want to help and really want to affect, because they understand that, when you look at Brentwood, everybody thinks about MS-13, but when you go to Brentwood, you see all these great families, all these people who are working really hard. That's what Brentwood's about. So let's work together to get that very small percentage of bad actors, of gang members out of the community, so that community can continue to thrive. Because I tell you, like you say, with the the caravans, the individuals who come from these countries, they want to come here, they want to achieve the American dream, and they want to work hard, and that's what the vast majority of them do. But these gang members, they're already committed to this ridiculous credo that we're gonna try to kill and maim everyone we deem to be an enemy.
Right.
So we've got to remove them from society, because they're malignant, and then they're especially malignant when they come to America, because in El Salvador you're either 18th Street or MS-13, and they have neighborhoods, they call them colonies, and it's like if you're in an MS-13 neighborhood, you stay in your neighborhood. If you're in a 18th Street, you stay in your neighborhood, and there's really no access to like sort of go after one another, because it's almost like there's like skirmish lines that you can't cross. So now you take that, and then you take the MS-13, and they go into a neighborhood like Central Islip, and they're like, oh my God, I can move around freely. And their concept of what a gang member is stunted. And so you have you have a black kid with a Chicago Bulls hat. Oh my God, that's a blood member. And a young man loses his life because he's wearing a Chicago Bulls hat. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable, because and that's what you're dealing with when you're dealing with this gang, because they're taking their sensibilities about gang life in El Salvador, they're coming over to our country, and they're trying to apply them here. And we just can't let that happen.
Nice. And, that's MS-13 has been an issue that has obviously been dominant. I mean, back when I was in high school and I graduated in 2009, I started hearing about it in my senior class, MS-13, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't really know what that was. But now, I remember hearing about that as we got into the Obama presidency, deeper into that, and then into the Trump presidency. He kept bringing it up. And now hearing how much of a role that's had in dragging down and infiltrating and destroying communities and destroying lives. It might not even take the entire community down, but if one man, one woman, one girl, one boy, whatever, wearing a Chicago Bulls hat, like you said, and this happens, right, is murdered by MS-13. If that happens, and that could have been avoided by just strengthening the southern border, just working with your team in the district attorney's office in Suffolk County, Tim Sini, right? Just doing your job with some semblance of confidence, that person would still be alive today. It should make everybody sick. And I think Long Island, over the last 12 to 15 months that we've been at it, and I've seen this growing passion within residents, voters, and whatnot in Long Island. They've become sick of the status quo, and they're looking for change. One of the biggest things that they were looking for, and this is before COVID-19, Andrew Cuomo, former governor of New York, and I love, by the way, saying former Governor Cuomo, even though the replacement is just him in a dress, it's fine. But former Governor Cuomo, with bail reform, he was vastly unpopular. His approval rating before COVID-19 was 44%. This was before anybody accused him of any funny business. This was before he decided to put COVID positive patients in nursing homes, despite a floating hospital ship on the Hudson River and 1,700 beds in the Javits Center that went unused. This was before COVID. 44% because of bail reform. And I would love to get your take on what bail reform, because there's bail reform, there's white collar crimes, there's nonviolent crimes, and then there's some of the stuff that these people who are getting out and released back onto the streets are doing, which are absolutely violent. What influence will your office have? Because these policies are written into, I guess, New York state law. What influence will your office have, especially if we can get a governor like Lee Zeldin elected in 2022? What influence is your office as the Suffolk County District Attorney going to have to fix this bail reform thing, which has been vastly unpopular since the day it was signed into law, which led to the beginning of the nonstop attacks on Andrew Cuomo? And it was kind of masked in the pandemic, and then it kind of got lost, and people forgot about it because of nursing homes, because of COVID, because of the other accusations of the silly behavior and whatnot, where he says, no, I'm not one of those, I'm just Italian, which I think is ridiculous. But what is your office going to do to work with if it's Lee Zeldin, or even if, God forbid, we're stuck with, the alternative after 22, which I don't think is going to happen. I think we're going to win your race. We're going to build some serious momentum and take back the state in 2022. And that's the eternal optimist in me speaking. That's me with faith in the American people speaking. What can you do to overcome these very dangerous bail reform laws that exist in the state now?
Before I talk about bail reform, I just want to finish up on the MS-13, because I always like to mention the victims, because I think at the end of the day, it's all about the victims. So we talk about innocent young men dying. So I just want to give you two of those innocent men.
Go for it.
Keenan Russell was a young man who was coming out of a party on a holiday weekend, and he was shot by the MS-13 because of the neighborhood he was walking in, the color of his skin. And, I formed I prosecuted that case, and his mother, Margaret Smith, is waiting for justice, a small measure of justice. He's going through the process in the Eastern District, and I wish my former colleagues well with that case. But that's a tragic ending to a very promising life, and a totally innocent person who was murdered for no reason. So my heart goes out to Keenan Russell and Margaret Smith and the entire family. And also there's a young guy by the name of DeJuan Stacks, and DeJuan Stacks worked for Home Depot. He was walking home one night, and he stopped in front of a lot, and he was set upon by the MS-13, and he was macheted to death.
Oh.
And DeJuan Stacks, we saw the murder, and we knew that it had to have been MS-13. DeJuan Stacks did absolutely nothing, and he was butchered in the streets. And we were one of our, and DeJuan really didn't have a lot of family in Suffolk County, so his death kind of went unnoticed. It didn't go unnoticed by us. And so when we were able to finally solve that murder and bring some of those guys to justice, and they were the same individuals who murdered the two high school girls, Kayla Minkins and Kayla Cuevas and Nisa Minkins. And so, that's really when you love the job, when you're able to give DeJuan Stacks a small measure of justice for really an outrageous thing that happened to him. But anyway, I just like to mention the victims.
Well, that's great. You have to. And it's, when you're able to throw those names out there and put those names out there because you've dealt with it. You saw what happened. And now that's nice. That's a good thing to do, to pay the respects to these people who were mercilessly killed. I mean, this gentleman, DeJuan, he did nothing wrong. You just said he was butchered in the street by a gang. And we have a DA right now in Tim Sini who seems to just, it's happening, and that's it. It's happening. And we want to make that better. But like you said, I do want to touch on bail reform. I got one more question for you after that.
Sure. I could talk real quick about bail reform. So the thing that we could do with bail reform is we could sound the alarm. And, March 27th, 2019, Tim Sini came out and he applauded Governor Cuomo and the legislative's commitment to achieving criminal justice reform. So that is a quote by him. Okay. And, he talks about digitalizing his office. Well, you digitalize quotes too. That is a quote that he said, and he claimed that he had a seat at the table of bail reform. Okay. If you were a competent prosecutor and you have a seat at the table at bail reform, you flip that table over and you say, this law is unworkable. This law is a disaster. But now, the public sees the havoc that bail reform and criminal justice reform has wrought. So now all of a sudden everybody's backing up. Oh, I was against it all along. No, you weren't. But let's talk about other things. Let's talk about less is more. Okay, where now we can't take individuals. We can't violate. Albany tells us when we could violate parolees and take dangerous parolees off the streets. What about the clean slate law, where we're going to take biometric information like DNA and fingerprints, and we're going to completely eradicate them from the system. So basically making it impossible to solve cold cases. Work release reform, where somebody convicted of terrorism could terrorism in the first degree could work release, get out early and work release. What about mandatory parole, 55 years or 15 years in jail, and you have a parole board? What about stacking the parole board with people who are predisposed to let people out no matter what? What about changing the burden on parole laws to make it so that the parole board has to establish a crime will be committed, and unless they can establish that, the person is going to get out? How can you guarantee that someone's going to commit a crime? All of these things are a disaster. All of these things make us less safe. All of these things are in the works, but we're talking about parole reform. So if in 3 years from now or 2 years from now, all the proponents of these laws will say, oh my God, these laws are what a disaster, but I was never for them. Okay. Well, now is the time to talk about that, right? Now is the time that, when you say less is more,
right?
Guess what, guys? Less is less.
Right.
Okay. Less is less. Let's talk about it. All of these criminal justice reforms individually are bad. When taken together are a disaster. So let's talk about it. I'll talk about it. Okay. And I'm not going to be silenced. And I'm going to talk about these things because if you don't talk about them, if you don't use your platform to say, look, these are the things that keep our citizens, that don't keep our citizens safe, we just sort of progress along these lines and we get gaslit and we say, oh no, less is more. And then, 3 years from now, everybody say, oh, guess what? Less is less.
Right. And then it comes to a harsh reality. You shared something on your Instagram last night and I put it up on our account. I shared it also. I guess it was something from News 12. And there was a gentleman, I don't know what his title was, but he was saying something. I'll show you what I'm talking about, what I'm referencing here. But I was wondering what they were saying. This is what it was. I think I shared it. Let me see if I can bring it up on my phone just to show you what I'm talking about. This clip right here. It says Cini lacks ethics and experience. It looks like it was something from News 12. And there's a gentleman that comes up on the screen here. And his name, let me see if I can get into this. His name, I'm going to let it play. But this is what you had shared on your social media last night. What was this? This is his man, a counsel to the legislature, Sarah. I'm not sure who that is. Dwayne Gregory. Yeah. Who is that? And he sounds like he was criticizing Tim Cini in what he was saying here. Was that what's going on?
Yes.
So what was that about? What is some background? And then I'll tell everyone, look on my Facebook story, Instagram story, because Ray's Instagram account put that up last night. What is that about? What are they watching? Because I'm trying to understand what I was watching too. I know it was bad for Cini. I just want to know why, and I want everyone to understand why.
So really, what happened with in the instance of Dwayne Gregory was there was there was a they were appointing people to the district attorney squad, and there was an individual, a younger individual, who was given the opportunity to be in the district attorney squad, and there were more experienced people that had the opportunity to, or should have had the opportunity under civil service to perhaps get the position. And so that the person who felt that they had been excluded called upon Dwayne Gregory, and Dwayne Gregory stepped in and said, hey, let's look at this. And it got very ugly very fast. And because when you question the district attorney's office, they attack you, and
right.
So Dwayne Gregory is attacked, and there was a big investigation, and they had a an independent counsel come in and look at it, and the promotion was stopped. But um, the experience so embittered Dwayne Gregory, the way that it was handled, the threats, the bullying tactics, so embittered Dwayne Gregory that when I ran, he met with me and we discussed it. And after meeting with me, Dwayne Gregory, a lifelong Democrat who had been the head person in the legislature at the time, he decided to endorse me as a Democrat, because he knows that there needs to be a change.
And that's important. I think a lot of people realize now, whether you're looking at it from a perspective of the DA, when you're looking at it from a perspective of your county legislature, which we have the opportunity to take back the majority this year, whether it's down to as local as library trustees or school board, or it's up as high as governor and president. People on Long Island, people in the United States are looking for a change. They're looking for transparency. They're looking for, the representative system. You're supposed to represent the people who voted you into office. And we're seeing issues on the school boards where they're, instead of representing the people who voted them in, they're representing Albany. We're seeing that in with our district attorney, where instead of representing the people and prosecuting and making communities safer, they're just making sure that Albany's satisfied. Albany didn't vote for Tim Sini. Suffolk County voted for Tim Sini. For what reason? I don't know. But I do know that on November 2nd, Suffolk County is going to come out and they're going to vote for Ray Tierney. And they're going to do that because they're looking for change. They're going to do that because there is the freedom flu is in the air. Patriotism is in the air. People are testing positive for patriotism every single day. It's spreading. And this is what the Democrats really want to stop the spread of. They want to stop the spread of people like Ray. They want to stop the spread of people who are going to get in there and bring transparency, accountability, and just overall, you can bring faith back into these institutions. We can return to a semblance of some sort of country that gets that can live and survive and thrive with law, with order, with good people doing the right thing, and still have our freedoms and not have to have people over your shoulder all the time. And I look, this was a fun interview. I really thank you for being here. The people ate it up. I mean, there's a ton of people watching right now, and throughout the course of the day, even more people are going to watch. They're going to listen to the podcast on We Will Not Comply, the Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and Spotify. Where can they find you, Ray? I want them to be keyed into you over the next 8 days. I want them to tell at least 3 of their friends. If everybody on this stream that's watching can get 3 of their friends out to vote themselves. Look, in California, you had 2 million votes that 2 million people signed the recall petition, okay? Gavin Newsom got 5.8 million votes to stay in office in California. If those people who voted in California found 3 of their friends to go out and vote on election day to vote yes to recall, they would have wound up with 6 million votes. They would have taken Gavin Newsom right out of office. That's what we've got to do. These streams are fun. Everything that Ray's been doing out on the streets is fun. Going to these fundraisers is great. Firing up the crowd. But you, the people who are watching, if you want that, what you just heard, Ray Tierney to be your next district attorney, you've got to get your friends out, your neighbors out, your family out, everybody who you know who's legal to vote in Suffolk County on November 2nd. Get out and vote. But where can they find you? Where can they key into your campaign? Where can they get in contact with you? How can they help you over the next 8 days to make that a reality?
So first off, my campaign is RayTierneyForDA.com, and I have Facebook and Twitter pages at Ray Tierney for DA. That's the handle. And I couldn't have said it better myself. Come November 2nd, you could vote early, but certainly by November 2nd, cast your vote. That's where, and sometimes I meet with people, and it's shifting, because this used to be a commonplace refrain. It's getting less commonplace, but we still hear it where people say, "What does it matter? What does it matter? They're gonna steal it from us. They're gonna take it from us. It doesn't matter. I'm one person." We can't think like that, because, like you said, when we come together, when we work together for a common goal, when we feel strongly about something, when we feel passionate about that, and we spread that to other people, and then we exercise our constitutional right. A right that our servicemen and women, they risked their lives and they lost their lives to ensure us. When we exercise that right to vote, well, then that's when we're heard. And so when that happens, because I know it will happen,
yes,
I will be carried to victory, and I will be the next district attorney, and I will not forget who brought me there. Okay. Because all the institutions in Suffolk County, all of the powerful institutions in Suffolk County are supporting my opponent. But why am I winning? I'm winning because I have the voice of the people behind me, because I represent those people. And when those people carry me to victory, I will remember them.
That's amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, Ray Tierney for DA, November 2nd. Early voting, I think, has started already. You can go out there. You can vote for Ray if you're in Suffolk County. He's on all of your ballots in Suffolk County for district attorney. So you vote for Tierney. If you live in District 7, you vote for Dom Thorne, okay? And most importantly, after you do those two things, when you flip your ballot over, you vote no on Propositions 1, 3, and 5. I'm going to be putting out a flyer. We do not want redistricting to be overridden by Democrats. That's Proposition 1. We do not want same-day voter registration. That's very dangerous in Suffolk County. That's Proposition 3. And number 5, we do not want to see no excuse mail-in ballots. It's an invitation to some funny business with elections. Ray Tierney, everybody, thank you so much for joining. Thanks for telling everybody where to find you, and thank you for being you throughout this process. I think the people really love to see a real man of the people, and that's who you are. A running back in high school, ready to run through the door, ready to put a hole in the wall that we're going to have to patch up. Listen, I don't work at Sherwin anymore, so I don't have a good deal. I don't have any connections on Spackle, so be careful, sir. But it's been a pleasure over the last couple months to get to know you. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and it's going to be a lot of fun over the next 8 days, grinding down to dust, grinding into, oh my goodness, when is this going to happen? Because on the night of November 2nd, when we see those results come in, I think we're all going to be very, very happy. So Ray, thanks for joining us. I think the people want to say thank you to you too. And we're excited. Please, please, please go out and vote, folks. loudmajorityus.com. That is our website. Go to the website, sign up for the newsletter, never miss a thing. You can find the audio version of the podcast on We Will Not Comply, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. We're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Wednesday, I've got more on the CRT and school district stuff that we've been digging in. Obviously, we're doing some special election coverage. So we had Dom on Friday. We had Ray this morning. Wednesday seems like we're going to have a stream back to what we were talking about last week. And then Friday, probably another guest. And then maybe even another one Monday morning going into the election, as we're on election eve on Monday, November 1st. So a lot going on. Thanks for coming down, Ray, early in the morning. I know it's not easy. I know you got places to be. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this morning. I know it's 8:10. We went a little long, but everything he had to say, you guys needed to hear. I need you to share this everywhere like Veritas does. Distribution by proxy. This is one of the most important shows that we've done. This is the person who's going to restore truth, justice, and the American way to Suffolk County. Ray Tierney for DA. Ladies and gentlemen, until Wednesday, 7 a.m. in the face of the intentional destruction of the United States of America, we repeat these 4 words over and over and over until the people in power finally get it. And we're going to repeat it over and over and over on November 2nd, 2021. We will not comply. Ladies and gentlemen, please, until Wednesday morning, stop complying and stay loud. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.